All right, let's talk about something that pretty much never happens in the U.S. Congress. Everyone agreeing on something. Seriously, the vote was for the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And the result? Well, it wasn't just a win. It was like spotting a political unicorn, a moment of almost complete agreement in a time when everyone seems divided.
I mean, just look at this. It tells a whole story without a single word. You've got this gigantic, towering bar for yes votes, 427 of them. And then, what is that? A tiny little sliver for no? It's barely even there. You know, in a place like Congress where everything is a fight, getting a vote this lopsided is a big deal. But on something as charged as this, wow, that's practically unheard of.
And, that's what makes this so fascinating. Your eyes are immediately drawn away from the massive yes vote to that one single no, right? It's like, in this sea of agreement, who's the one person swimming against the current? Who is willing to stand up and say no when 427 of their coworkers are saying yes? And maybe more importantly, why?
Well, that lone dissenter, the one no vote, came from Republican Congressman Clay Higgins of Louisiana. Yep, out of everyone there that day, 428 members, he was the only one.
So who is this guy? Well, Congressman Higgins has a background that, honestly, makes this vote kind of surprising. We're talking about an Army veteran, a former sheriff's captain, famous for his tough-on-crime videos. Politically, he's a member of the very conservative House Freedom Caucus and a big supporter of Donald Trump. So you see what I mean. On the surface, you'd think a guy like that would be first in line to vote yes on a bill to expose a criminal ring. That's what makes his no vote so interesting.
Okay, so Higgins didn't stay quiet about his vote. He came out right away to explain it, and he was very clear. This wasn't about protecting bad guys or hiding anything. For him, it was what he called a principled no. He said he was trying to protect the legal process itself. So, let's get into his reasoning.
So his main concern, the heart of it all, was collateral damage. His words were that this bill could injure thousands of innocent people. And just pause on that for a second. We're not talking about a handful of people. Thousands. He's talking about witnesses, family members, maybe even people who just provided an alibi. Their names would be in these files, and suddenly, boom, they're publicly linked to one of the most disgusting cases imaginable, even if they were completely innocent.
So for him, it wasn't about the goal of transparency, it was all about the method. He basically argued that this bill just rips up and throws out 250 years of American criminal justice procedure. See, there's a reason raw investigative files are usually kept under wraps. It's to protect people who haven't been charged with anything. Higgins saw this as a dangerous shortcut, a way of putting people on trial in the court of public opinion before they ever see a real courtroom.
And this is really the whole conflict right here. It's a classic balancing act. On one side of the scale, you've got this huge public demand for total, absolute transparency. We all want the truth out there. We want accountability. But on the other side, you have this really important principle of protecting individual people. Making sure innocent folks don't get their lives ruined just by being named in a file. It really all boils down to a tough question. Which one is more important? Okay, but here's where the story gets even wilder. To really get why Higgins' vote is so significant, you have to understand the messy political battle that led up to this moment. That 427-1 vote looks so clean and simple, but trust me, it's hiding a months-long knockdown drag-out fight where this bill was anything but a sure thing. For a long time, this bill was dead in the water. I mean, completely stalled. And the opposition was coming from the very top. You had former President Trump calling the whole thing a hoax. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, called the bill recklessly flawed. So we're not just talking about a lack of support here. The leadership was actively working to make sure this bill never, ever got a vote.
So you're probably wondering, if the leadership was blocking it, how on earth did it even get voted on? Well, they used this super interesting, kind of rare congressional power move. It's called a discharge petition. Think of it like a rebellion by the regular members of Congress. If they can get a majority, that's 218 people, to sign a petition, they can literally force a bill onto the floor for a vote, going right around the Speaker's authority. It's like a secret weapon. And that's what they did. Fueled by pressure from survivors, they went member by member, collecting signatures until they finally hit that magic number.
And you can really see how this all played out over time. It starts as just an idea in July, with the petition. Then things get serious in September. Survivors hold a rally at the Capitol, and suddenly, everyone is paying attention. The pressure builds and builds until by early November, they've got the signatures they need. The vote is officially happening. This wasn't some sudden decision. It was a slow, relentless campaign that completely changed the game.
And what happened next was just a massive flip-flop. I mean, just look at this. The same leaders who called it a hoax or a political exercise suddenly turned around and voted yes. It's a perfect example of how intense public pressure can make even the most powerful politicians do a complete 180. It's pretty incredible.
All right, so the bill makes it through the House with this insane lopsided vote. That's a huge step, but the journey isn't over. So what's next? Where does it go from here?
Well, next step is the Senate, and who knows what will happen there. But here's a really interesting little twist. Congressman Higgins himself has said that his no isn't necessarily a permanent no. He's actually said that if the Senate tweaks the bill, adds those protections for innocent people he was worried about, he would flip his vote to a yes. So it really seems like his problem was never with transparency itself, but with how they were going about it.
So when you take a step back and look at the whole picture, the grassroots pressure, the political backflips, and that one lonely no vote, it all points to one really big, really tough, fundamental question.
Yeah. What is the right balance? How do we get the justice and transparency we demand for these horrible crimes without sacrificing the principle that's supposed to protect innocent people from getting caught in the middle? Man, there's just no simple answer to that. And that one single no vote, standing against 427 yeses, it's just this perfect, powerful reminder of that very complicated question we all have to think about.